And good morning, everyone. Happy Friday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterism Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. And on Fridays, I do a section that I call Responding to the Critics. This is video number 13 in my review and, response to the book by Brian Hodge entitled Problems with Preterism. And let me remind you that I am not going to do an absolute thorough review of the entire book. There's no need to. He spends a lot of time on Matthew 24, the Olivet Discourse. He spends a lot of time on 1 Corinthians 15. Since I have done really extensive exegesis of both of those topics, there's no need for me to go into detail here on responding to the critics. Let me just simply recommend that you go to YouTube and you do a search for Don K. Preston on the Olivet Discourse, that you do a search for Don K. Preston on 1 Corinthians 15, the resurrection, what have you. And you will find, believe you me, a ton of material that will very thoroughly respond to Mr. Hodge and demonstrate the fallacy of his attempted exegesis. Now, I have been sharing with you, nonetheless, and I have been addressing issues that obviously Mr. Hodge believes are foundational to his later development and discussion of the Olivet Discourse and 1 Corinthians 15. So, in dealing with these things, I've shown you how Mr. Hodge, he likes to say that preterists are naive, we are ignorant, we don't know anything about hermeneutic, etc., etc. And yet, his entire book is one of the most glaring examples of presuppositional, quote, exegesis, it's eisegesis in reality, that you will ever find. He assumes when he approaches some of these controversial texts that they speak of a yet future end of time and the end of human history. He doesn't seriously go into detail, but he'll give the text and he'll say things like, well, it's more than obvious that this could not have referred to AD 70 like these naughty preterists say. So it's clear this and it's clear that, and it's obvious this and it's obvious that, when in reality, it's not obvious at all. And his claims in reality cannot be substantiated. So, I've been sharing with you some of his underlying presuppositions that are his justification for his attempted exegesis of the Olivet Discourse. Last week, I shared with you his claims about Luke chapter 17. Now, he makes a big deal out of this. He believes that Luke chapter 17 really serves as proof positive of what he calls the micro element of eschatology versus the macro. He acknowledges, all right, this is critical. He acknowledges that the first century readers of Luke chapter 17 and Jesus' pericope there, that, they would have understood that to be speaking of AD 70. And Christ, quote, metaphoric, unquote, non-literal, non-visible, non-physical, coming at the time of the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70 at the hands of the Romans. Yeah, that's what they would have seen. But, you see, a little bit of a pun intended, we have to understand that there is macrocosmic application. In other words, yes, the primary application was macrocosmic, focus on the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70. But we can't leave it at that, because if we leave it at that, our futurist eschatology has disappeared or disappears. So we have to postulate, we have to claim, we have to affirm, Mr. Hodge believes, evidently, what happened then in AD 70 points forward to the real coming of the Lord, the real revelation of Christ. And remember, he draws a very, very sharp distinction between the days of the Son of Man versus the day of the Son of Man. Now, last week, I shared this with you, but I've got to do this again because this is one of those things that you absolutely must catch the power of what Jesus said that completely negates this argument about, well, yeah, there are days of the Son of Man, but there's only one day of the Son of Man. Well, I'm going to begin reading again in Luke chapter 17, 26 and following. As it was in the days of Noah, so it shall also be in the days of the Son of Man. So Mr. Hodge goes, see, it's days of the Son of Man. Not day, days. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, and they were given in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Now, Mr. Hodge conveniently overlooks, does not make mention of the days of Noah consummating in the day of Noah. And the day being the day they entered the ark. But you see, there were the days of preparation, the days of warning, the days of proclamation, and those days were climaxed in the day of Noah entering the ark. Okay, got to go on. Likewise also, as it was in the days of Lot. They did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, and they builded. Days of Lot. Did Mr. Hodge pay attention to the days leading up to the climactic day of the departure from Sodom? No. Because you see, that's a rather inconvenient truth and reality. Okay, so also as it was in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank. But let me go on, verse 29. But the same day, the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. The same day. You have days of Lot leading to the day of Lot leaving. Now watch. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. So he gives two examples of the days leading to the day. And guess what he does? Back in verse 26. As it was in the days of Noah, so it shall also be in the days of the Son of Man. But those days of the Son of Man lead us directly to, in verse 30, the day when the Son of Man is revealed. Now, there's something very critical here, and this is recapitulatory, a little bit redundant, but it's really, really critical. Notice that Jesus likens two events that had days consummating in day, and he says both of those days consummating in day would be like it was in the days of the Son of Man consummating in the day of the Son of Man. Now then, what is that day of the Son of Man? Well, it is in the day that the Son of Man would be revealed. Well, what is that day when the Son of Man would be revealed? Well, Jesus tells us. If you're on the rooftops, do not come down. Now, as I pointed out last week, this speaks of a first century Leben, as the German scholars would call it. This speaks of a first century real life situation because in first century Judea and Jerusalem, guess what? They spent a lot of time on their rooftops. It's not speaking about 21st century America and people living up. Boy, have you ever seen the pitch on some of the roofs we've got these days? A lot of the roofs. What would people be doing up on these sharp pitched roofs so to listen to Jesus' exhortation? Now, if you're on the rooftop at the revelation of the Son of Man, don't come down. Wait a minute. Don't come down? How does that work? Well, futurists would say, well, yeah, don't come down because you'll be caught away in the so-called rapture. That won't work, as we'll see momentarily. But he said, don't come down, flee. Because you see, the houses in Jerusalem butted up once against one another. They had ramparts around the top, but you could easily go from rooftop to rooftop to rooftop to the walls of Jerusalem, and there you could take steps down from the wall and you could, flee. That's the reason Jesus was saying, let him that is on the rooftop not come down. Let him flee. Pardon me. But you see, Mr. Hodge has to absolutely 100% ignore this. But remember, this is in the day when the Son of Man would be revealed. It is not in one of the many days in which the Son of Man would be revealed. It is the day. And remember, God emphasized this. Mr. Hodge says the day of the coming of the Son of Man is the final coming. Okay. But the day when the Son of Man would be revealed would be when men on the rooftops could flee by, jumping rooftop to rooftop to rooftop. Get to the wall, go down, and get out of town. Now, there's something else here. Well, believe you me, there's lots of stuff here that completely, totally refutes Mr. Hodge's claims. And this is where he makes a huge deal out of Luke chapter 17. He says, the days are coming in which you will desire to see one of the days of the Son of Man. That's back in verse 22. The days will come when you shall desire to see one of the days of the Son of Man, and you will not see it. Well, wait a minute. Mr. Hodge argues that what Jesus is saying here absolutely, totally destroys the full preterist view. No, it doesn't. Because here's what Mr. Hodge does. Mr. Hodge says, well, yes, there were many days of the Lord, and men could see those. But Jesus is talking here about his final coming, and he says, you will not see it. In other words, it would not be in the first century generation. But wait a minute, time out. Remember, Mr. Hodge says the days of the Son of Man would refer to Jerusalem and its fall. Well, guess what? The apostles did see it. This flatly contradicts him. So he turns around and he says, well, you will desire to see the day of the coming of the Son of Man when the Son of Man is revealed. In other words, the final coming, but you will not see it. So he changes, he absolutely perverts the text. Let me read it for you, not quote it for you. The days will come when you shall desire to see one of the days of the Son of Man, and you shall not see it. And they shall say to you, see here or see there, do not go after them, nor follow them. For as the lightning that lightens out of the one part of heaven and shines unto the other part under heaven, so also shall the Son of Man be in his day. So you see, he ignores verse 26 and he skips right down to verse 24. I'm sorry, verse 22, and skips right down to verse 24, and he imposes verse 22 on verse 24. And he says, well, you will see the days of the Son of Man, but you won't see the day of the Son of Man. Folks, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be harsh, but that is a perversion of what the text says. Jesus does not say, you will not see the day of the revelation of the Son of Man. He doesn't say it. He says, you will desire to see one of the days of the Son of Man, but you won't see it. But wait a minute. They would see the days of the siege and the fall of Jerusalem. After all, Matthew chapter 24, when you see, speaking to his apostles, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, let the one who reads understand, then let those who are in Judea flee. For then shall be great tribulation, such as not been since the beginning of time, nor ever yet shall be. Okay? And immediately after that tribulation, they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven. They who? The first century Jewish contemporaries of the apostles. So they would see the abomination of desolation, they would see the tribulation, and immediately after the tribulation, there's the climax to it in reality, they would see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Again, this flies in the face of what Mr. Hodge is arguing. But now, I want to shift gears, and I want to notice something else that he says. Well, he says, you will not see the day of the coming of the Son of Man, but it's the day of the revelation of the Son of Man. Well, first of all, let me point out, Jesus is talking about his coming as the Son of Man. That's obvious. It's undeniable. It's not even controvertible from the text. But you see in Daniel chapter 7, a passage that Mr. Hodge supposedly loves to appeal to, when would the coming of the Son of Man, when would the revelation of the Son of Man take place? Oh, in the days of the Fourth Empire, i.e. Rome. So here Jesus is talking about the revelation of the Son of Man on the day of the revelation of the Son of Man, but that's tied inextricably to the days of Rome, not to the days of America, not to some period of time 2 million years from now, to the days of Rome. Okay, we go on. And notice this also. He says, I'm going to cut this short here. And they answered and said unto him, where, Lord? Where what? Where will this be when if man is on the rooftop, don't come down, if the two men in the field don't return back, and two shall be in the bed, one taken, one left? Lord, where's that going to be? Look at Jesus' statement. Wheresoever the body is, there will the eagles be gathered together. By the way, I want you to notice the corporate nature of what Jesus is predicting. Now, does he talk about two men here, two in the bed, a man on the housetop? Yes. But notice that the ultimate focus is on a carcass that's on a body, collective body. That would include, those who are left, those who didn't flee, those who didn't get out of Dodge. Guess what they're going to comprise? The carcass, the dead body of Jerusalem. Now that raises serious, serious problems for Mr. Hodge. He has to come up with some explanation of how two men being in the field, one taken, one left, but both of them urged, don't go back into the town. He has to explain how all of that relates to some end of time scenario. Well, in the first place, they were being told, flee, get out of town. That doesn't fit an end of time scenario. Number two, the flight over the rooftops doesn't fit an end of time scenario. And Mr. Hodge seeks not a word of explanation of where the carcass is to explain that for us. He just simply says, well, yeah, you've got microcosmic and you've got macrocosmic. Now, I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to save one more lesson to focus on the concept, the doctrine of the revelation of the Son of Man. Because Mr. Hodge thinks this is a key support of his criticism of full preterism. I want to suggest to you that the doctrine of the revelation of the Son of Man is absolutely 100% fatal to Mr. Hodge's arguments and claims of the problems with preterism. So thanks for joining me here on Friday and responding to the critics. Take care. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday.